The Samsung Galaxy Z Flip is an exciting device, and to be honest, this might be the most fun I've had with a smartphone in quite some time. However, if you're still thinking of picking this thing up, there are a few things that you should consider. Hey, it's Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? These are my top 5 complaints about the Galaxy Z Flip. Alright, I feel like I have to do this more often than not here on the channel, but just remember that these aren't necessarily like full-on complaints. I just said that I love using this phone. What I'm trying to provide in these top 5 complaints videos are things that you might run into while using this phone that make you go, Now obviously the screen is most of the reason why this is a fun device to use, but there are some things you have to consider about it. Obviously I'm going to reference Zach's teardown of this device where we still have to ask the question, is this actually glass for the most part? What they're using here is called UTG, and as Zach found out in that video, it's a very, very thin piece of glass that's underneath what looks to be still a piece of plastic. And in order to actually enjoy using this phone, you also have to baby that screen. After all, this is a foldable display, which means that there's a lot more moving parts in this phone than pretty much any other smartphone we're used to now. And as I vlogged a little while back, I went through some pretty painstaking steps to actually protect my investment. Alright, well here I am once again at the Samsung Experience Store here in the Americana brand. I have lost track of how many times I've actually been here, which is fine, but every time I call, I want to check if the leather cases are in, but now I have scheduled an appointment to actually get the screen protector installed on the phone. These are the steps that you have to go through in order to kind of baby this phone, because you want to make sure that this thing obviously doesn't get damaged at all. But if you look at my actual screen on the Z Flip, there are some scratches on there just from general wear and tear, so a screen protector like this is probably imperative. It's your fingernail that could cause those scratches on a screen that presumably you would be using for the better part of a year until you get something after. It's going to take half an hour to an hour for them to apply a screen protector. I'm guessing because there's all this testing that has to be done to make sure that the touch settings are still okay, that it's not going to get in the way of like general usage, but still, I wish I brought some stuff to do. So $20, $5 of parking at the Americana, and 2 hours of my time later, I finally got a screen protector so that I can protect my investment. It's the same type of screen protector that most people tend to just take right off when they unbox a device. It's funny that in order to keep this screen from getting damaged, or to keep myself from having to pay that extra amount of money to replace what could be a damaged screen, I had to actually go through some extra steps just to get something that most other phones have right out the box. So let's talk about the other forms of glass that are on this phone, and obviously I'm talking about the handling. The rest of the phone is made of glass, but it's incredibly fingerprint prone, as you probably saw from plenty of other videos, including even my unboxing. The moment I started using the phone after I took it out of the box, it was already smudgy, and to be honest, because it's all glass all around this phone, it's incredibly slippery, and that's something that you have to keep in mind. Especially if you're just looking to open it one-handed like this, you are doing a lot of pinching, a lot of tucking, and a lot of stuff to the phone in order to get it open, because that's obviously the only way that you can use it. Which kind of leads me to one of the other problems right now, and it's not necessarily the phone's fault or Samsung's fault. We're just in an early phase of this new wave of smartphones. The foldable craze is still in its infancy, and that means that things like accessories and cases and whatnot are still kind of rare. It's not that easy to find stuff that would actually help you not only protect the device, but actually help you handle it. One of the few things that actually have been released for this phone are these D-brand skins, which I actually think are a godsend for something like this. While I might want to have a case later on, there aren't that many available yet, they're hard to get, so at the very least, a skin like this allows me to have more tactile feel, rather than just it slipping about and me being worried that it's just going to pop out of my hands when I'm trying to open the phone. So if you want skins for your Galaxy Z Flip or any other phone, honestly, they still have the robot camo, which is available just for a little bit longer. You can find all of those skins for this phone and more at the link in the description down below. Compared to what I just talked about, the next 2 things on this list are small by comparison, but they are important to consider, especially since this phone is still kind of expensive. We'll start off with the cover cameras. Now, this is something I actually adore about this phone, the fact that you don't have to open it up in order to do things like take selfies. Just double tap the power button, this little screen here, the cover screen, brings up a viewfinder which you can then tap in order to trigger the wide-angle camera, which is itself really effective for getting selfies like this without having to open up the phone. Because if you open up the phone, you have to use that, honestly, kind of lackluster front-facing camera. My one problem with this, though, is that there's just not enough else that you can do with it. The viewfinder doesn't really give you a whole lot of room in order to frame your shot. It's really just for that run and gun type of thing, but it would be really nice if you can record video using the rear cameras in the closed position. Maybe for the Galaxy Z Flip 2, this would be a great way of actually getting some vertical video for things like IG stories or TikTok without having to open up the device and having to use what is honestly not as great a camera. And then finally, we have a few things to talk about when it comes to the specs. For the most part, this phone is exactly what you need, especially if you're not a super power user. You have the Snapdragon 855 Plus, which is still good for gaming. It's definitely still a great everyday performing processor. Then you have 8 GB of RAM, which is more than enough for multitasking, and you can lock one application in the background so that it's easy to open it up whenever you need it. It's great to see that Samsung found a way to keep this phone fairly thin by using 2 different batteries for a total of 3,300 mAh. Now, as far as just the capacity is concerned, it's a decent amount of battery. You can get through a full day's worth of work and play without too many troubles. But if this is going to be your main device and you have it more open than closed, well, you're going to end up having to charge it eventually, and the fast charging on here is not all that fast at all. You only get 15-watt charging on here. Now, granted, there are very few situations where I would actually need to top this thing up in just like 10 or 15 minutes, but honestly, when that situation does come up, you're gonna be wishing that you had the 25 or even the 45-watt charging that was done on the Galaxy S20 Ultra, and honestly, fast charging is something that we're expecting on flagship phones, and if this is going to be the shining example of how great a foldable can be, 15-watt charging is not a great detail on the stat sheet. But honestly, all of those little qualms that I have aren't really huge problems. I actually don't have any issues with the phone with my daily usage, but this might be something that ends up coming up for those of you who are real power users who want to have something that is different but still powerful. This somewhat gets to that point, but doesn't really go all the way. And part of the reason why it's easy to feel that way is because of the price. Almost $1,400 is what Samsung is asking you to be an early adopter in a burgeoning market, smartphone foldables. But if you're going to be paying that much money when compared to a very powerful and very spec-heavy phone like the Galaxy S20 Ultra, well, you have to weigh your cost benefits here. After all, what you're doing here is being one of the first people to actually use a screen like this every single day for, I don't know, maybe months to a year, and we still don't know just how far this particular screen can actually go on daily usage like that. But to be honest, unless you are really into the idea of a flip smartphone or you want to have a phone that folds down and fits better in your pocket or purse, honestly, that $1,380 could easily go to another phone that might have even better specs than this. That being said though, I clearly paid for my Galaxy Z Flip. I'm really enjoying it. That nostalgia trip and the feeling of something that is honestly different is enticing, and it has proven to be a very fun device to use recently. But these are the types of things you have to keep in mind if you do want to put all of that money down for a phone that is as cool as this. And yeah, those are the top 5 things that have come to mind as I have used the Galaxy Z Flip as my main device. These are 5 kind of complaints, but also just general considerations that you should be having if you're going to drop all of that money for Samsung's latest foldable. Let me know if you have gotten a Galaxy Z Flip, what your experience has been like, and if your concerns are mirroring mine. Let me know how you feel about the Galaxy Z Flip in the comment sections down below as well. From there, you can drop some likes on this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Consider hitting the bell over on the side, as I'm trying to put out videos basically every other day, so you might want to stick around to see what I have cooked up for the next video. And from there, I'm going to call it on this one. Thank you so much for watching, and until my next video, I will just remind you to enjoy your tea, everybody.